The National News Desk, locally covered, nationally connected.
Yeah, so right now it's all hands on deck. We are really monitoring the weather. We're anticipating around midnight to be some of the heaviest rain coming in.
An urgent flood watch now extended through Thursday for almost all of Southern California. The mandatory evacuations already in place.
We try to train for incidents like this, but we were overwhelmed.
Plus, at least 20 people killed and over a dozen hurt after a nursing home gas explosion. What we're learning from the wreckage tonight. Then holiday marching orders, the fresh round of troop deployments in the South. Good evening. I'm Taylor Murray. Welcome to the National News Desk, America's News Now. We begin with breaking news tonight outside of Baltimore, Maryland, where at least 2 people have been hospitalized in a shooting involving federal immigration agents. Here's what we know now. Police say ICE agents fired at a van that allegedly tried to run them over in Glen Burnie. ABC News reports that both the driver and someone outside the vehicle were shot. The outlet also says DHS confirmed the driver is in the U.S. illegally from Portugal and adds that the ICE officers were not severely injured. This is a developing story. Stay with us as we learn more. Here's a look over New Orleans, where President Donald Trump has authorized 350 National Guardsmen to deploy into the city. These deployments have been met with firm opposition by Democratic state officials, but has been praised by Republicans. National correspondent Matt Gelka has more on the fight over Guard deployments.
Louisiana Republican Governor Jeff Landry asked the Trump administration earlier in the year to deploy National Guard troops to his state. 350 are now being activated ahead of big upcoming events, including New Year's Eve, a college football playoff game at the Sugar Bowl, and Mardi Gras.
They will be there for New Year's Eve, and they're going to be there for a deployment through February, which we desperately need. Look, we know how to make cities safe, and the National Guard complements cities that are having high crime problems.
The Guard's role is to support federal agents, not make arrests, and comes as an immigration crackdown is underway in New Orleans, part of a wider deportation plan that's been carried out by the Trump administration around the country. An unscientific online poll conducted by Sinclair this week showed 73% of people responding approved of the president's policy removing illegal immigrants from the country. A recent Pew Research poll also showed that 53% of Americans believe the administration is doing too much when it comes to deportations. The Louisiana deployment comes just hours after the Supreme Court blocked the Guard from deploying to Chicago, Illinois in support of ICE agents. President Trump has often targeted blue cities for federalizing the National Guard, but has also been met with court roadblocks in Portland, Oregon, and Los Angeles, California, along with Chicago.
He's not allowed to send in the National Guard to a place like Chicago, where the Illinois government there did not want the National Guard in there in the first place. They did not need it. They did not stated a real need for it. I am a little surprised that finally we had some conservative judges stand up against President Trump.
The main difference between the two deployments: Louisiana's Republican governor invited the Guard in, as opposed to Illinois, where Democratic leaders vehemently opposed the Guard's deployment, suing to try and stop it back in October before the case landed in front of the Supreme Court. Reporting in Washington, I'm Matt Gelka for the National News Desk, America's News Now.
The man accused of shooting 2 National Guards members in Washington, D.C. faces additional federal charges. Ramanullah Lakhanwal, an Afghan national who lived in Washington state, is now charged with transporting a firearm with the intent to commit a crime and transporting an alleged stolen firearm between states. He's already charged with first-degree murder, assault with intent to kill, and 2 other firearms charges. Lakhanwal pleads not guilty. Guard member Sarah Beckstrom was killed in the November 26 ambush. Andrew Wolf was seriously injured and continues his recovery. Once again, more than 40 million Californians are under flood alerts until at least Friday afternoon. This as another powerful atmospheric river is hitting the coast from Northern California down to its southern border with Mexico. Here are some staggering rainfall projections on your screen from the National Weather Service. Look at this. Long Beach could see more than 5 inches. Santa Barbara is projected to get nearly 7 inches of rain. Los Angeles 7.5, and in the mountains above LA, one spot could see more than 11 inches of rain. Due to the heavy rains and the effects of last year's fires, evacuation orders are in effect for the Palisades, Sunset, and Hearst burn scar areas. Burned soil after the fires doesn't soak up as much rain, creating more runoff and increasing the risk of flash flooding. Leaders are advising people to think twice about their travel plans over the holidays.
My bottom line point, if you're planning to be out on the roads during the Christmas holiday, please reconsider your plans. By the time we get to late Wednesday through Friday, many areas will likely be experiencing significant flooding along with rock slides and mudslides.
Another Christmas Eve advisory for the West Coast. Just under 37 million people in Washington, Oregon, California, Nevada, Utah, and Arizona are under wind advisories. Wind gusts, especially in high elevations, could exceed 65 miles per hour, and in some places could reach hurricane strength winds of more than 80 miles per hour. Well, I want to issue a correction here to something I reported at the top of the newscast. At least 2 people are dead, not 20, but 20 are injured after an explosion at a nursing home in Bristol Township, Pennsylvania. The governor of Pennsylvania, Josh Shapiro, says the preliminary cause of the explosion is a gas leak, but that has to be confirmed. 5 people are still unaccounted for, and residents in the area are shaken.
I'm hurt. This is my neighborhood, so I feel like they are my family. It sucks. And it's right near Christmas time, too.
The state health department's latest inspection report in October said the facility was not in compliance with a few regulations, like failing to properly maintain several stairways and failing to maintain portable fire extinguishers on one of its 3 levels. We are learning today about a massive drug bust outside of Seattle. The Kings County Sheriff's Office says last week they seized more than $2 million in illegal drugs, as well as nearly $90,000 in cash. Officers say they arrested a suspect who is connected, they believe, to the Sinaloa cartel network. Officers impounded nearly 220 pounds of meth and heroin. Officers also highlighted Canine Quinn, who you see here. He helped in the bust of this mission, and it was his 30th operation of the year. In Ogden, Utah, 21-year-old Skylar Rose is facing several felony charges, including felony possession of a weapon of mass destruction and a felony threat of terrorism. This after Utah police found homemade bombs in his home. They conducted the search after Rose allegedly made anti-Semitic threats online, suggesting he wanted to, quote, blow up a synagogue. Investigators say they seized at least 6 completed and operational pipe bombs and at least 1 assault rifle. Rose is being held without bail. His next court date is pending. Now, in a similar incident in Australia, police have arrested a man who allegedly pledged support for the shooters of the Bondi Beach Hanukkah massacre. Prosecutors said in court today, 39-year-old Martin Thomas Glenn posted online, quote, I just want to say that I, Martin Glenn, 100% support the New South Wales shooters. Now, this led to a search of his home where police found Hamas and Hezbollah flags, 4,000 rounds of ammunition, 6 rifles, and a, quote, shopping list of items that could make homemade explosives. For his defense, Glenn said he is not a violent person and considered himself a doomsday prepper. Glenn was denied bail and will appear in court February 3rd. Well, a federal judge in California has struck down a state policy that kept parents in the dark about whether their child identified as a different gender at school. The judge said forcing teachers to actively hide critical information from parents is a form of state interference in the parent-child relationship, calling that unconstitutional. The Attorney General of California is already appealing the decision. Meanwhile, the Department of Health and Human Services faces a lawsuit after ending support for gender-changing treatments for minors across the country. A coalition of 19 states, including the District of Columbia, filed the suit yesterday. HHS's new directive says such treatments are unsafe and ineffective and warns doctors of federal health program exclusions. Warns doctors, of these exclusions if they continue to provide such care. The lawsuit claims the declaration is unlawful and inaccurate and asks the court to pause the implementation. All right, coming up, White House upheaval, the latest on the plans to remake the East Wing Ballroom as lawsuits continue to try to stop the progress. Then rodent rampage, the growing outrage in Maryland over a persistent rat problem taking over apartments. Plus, cracking down on illegal truckers state by state. Which state the Trump administration is targeting next? The Trump administration is plowing ahead with construction plans on the ballroom. This after a preservation group lost its bid to temporarily halt the project. Last week, a judge sided with President Trump over the National Trust for Historic Preservation, allowing the work to continue on the East Wing site. The White House argues the 90,000 square foot ballroom project is not yet far enough along to require approval. The preservation group's lawsuit seeks a judicial declaration to impose demolition requirements on construction at the White House. The ballroom project will come before the National Capital Planning Commission on January 8th, and another court hearing is scheduled for January 15th. The holidays are supposed to be the most wonderful time of the year, but in reality, for some, it can be challenging to feel the joy of the season. Our fact-check team looked into the winter blues, what causes it, and how to prevent it.
In the colder months, shorter days mean a lot of people are already feeling that drop in mood. The official name for that is seasonal affective disorder. Let's go to Emma Withrow from the Fact Check team. And a lot of people are talking about this, so important to note. What did you find about how this works, what the science is behind it?
Yeah, so Harvard Health, they say it's a form of seasonal depression. It basically shows up in late fall, in the winter, and lifts in the spring. To be diagnosed, you need to have major depressive episodes basically during the dark months for 2 years in a row. Symptoms include low mood, hopelessness, sleep problems, appetite changes, sluggishness, even carb cravings, low energy, so social withdrawal. All of those things kind of factor into whether or not you can get the diagnosis.
You don't realize it until it happens, how big of an impact your environment can have. Is that what's actually causing it, the sunlight, the lack of it?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Harvard points to a lack of sunlight as the main cause. Less light really disrupts your kind of rhythm, and it makes your brain produce too much melatonin and too little serotonin. So that's the chemical that stabilizes your mood. So that imbalance can also affect memory and concentration, not just your mood. So people in those northern states and those with a family history of depression are really at higher risk. But Harvard says that artificial light can actually work kind of like sunlight and even help prevent symptoms if you start early in the winter.
Good advice. Emma, thank you so much. For more on this Fact Check Team topic, including links to Emma's sources, scan the QR code or visit thenationaldesk.com.
We are following a significant outbreak of salmonella, which, according to the CDC, is linked to raw oysters. But the FDA is still working to determine if there is a common source for the impacted oysters. Investigators say 64 cases have been reported across 22 states. At least 20 people have been hospitalized because of the illness. The most cases were reported in New York, New Jersey, and Virginia. But the good news is no deaths have been reported, according to the CDC's website. The latest in a string of legal judgments against Johnson & Johnson over claims its talc products cause cancer. A Baltimore City jury ordered the company to pay over $1.5 billion in a lawsuit filed by a Maryland woman. The suit alleges Johnson & Johnson's talc-based personal products gave Sherry Kraft cancer. Kraft claimed the baby powder exposed her to asbestos, leading to her diagnosis of mesothelioma in January 2024. Johnson & Johnson has faced thousands of these lawsuits, but according to lawyers, this verdict is the largest ever returned against Johnson & Johnson for a single plaintiff. Johnson & Johnson says it plans to appeal the verdict. We have reporters all across the country in your neighborhoods covering issues that matter to you. We're taking the pulse of America. We start in Washington, where small businesses are feeling the impact from recent floods.
In Snohomish County,
we couldn't get in, couldn't get out.
Stunning drone video captured on December 11th shows Pioneer Highway underwater in Silvana.
The river, the crest kept getting higher and higher, so we really had to prepare. The whole town got evacuated.
Just off Pioneer Highway, Northwest Tack Consignment,
for all the clothes,
which sells horse equipment that comes in on consignment.
The water was up on this walkway, so it got up to the third step, and all of this was underwater, completely underwater. All this porch, everything was underwater.
The family that owns the business tells us they had to move at least a few hundred pieces of inventory.
Every saddle that was on these lower racks, we had to get them off the ground. So every one of the saddles on these lower racks you see here, we had to get them up to these third racks. So we were having to pick up the saddles up over our heads, put them all up.
The store closing for 3 days because floodwaters made the road impassable. Then a windstorm last week knocked out power.
It really took a toll on the store this year, being closed right before Christmas.
I can't even believe this. Like, they just keep coming out.
This TikTok, now seen more than 2 million times, was supposed to be the call to action for a Montgomery County apartment complex. And some action was taken to alleviate the rodent problem here, first documented in this video in November. The apartment itself was condemned, and inspectors came to look at neighboring units. But the problem, according to some, is still here.
I've heard of at least 3 different tenants besides the one that was on TikTok.
Levi Lord has lived at the Arrive Silver Spring for more than a year.
Tell me what happened in your, you lived here for a year, you moved in, and what happened?
We had roaches, we had rats, we had tenants that basically had their dogs pepper sprayed from other tenants. Yeah, it was quite the experience.
He said management moved him to the other side of the building, which has helped, but he still sees rats in the courtyard.
But the management, from what I've heard, has not actually fixed or addressed the problems.
7 News called the number listed for the Arrive Silver Spring. After being put on hold, the line was disconnected. The apartments are run by the California-based Trinity Property Consultants, which manages thousands of apartments around the country. We emailed and called a number listed for them. Last month, 7 News was here and saw an exterminator's truck near the property on Georgia Avenue. And on Tuesday, we saw rat traps around the exterior of the building. Levi has seen enough.
I mean, other than move out, are you looking to move? Like, what's?
Oh, we're moving 100%. As soon as this lease is up, we are not renewing. Yeah, we're out of here.
The city makes a lot of noise. Speaking of sound, but what people are hearing in Northside, Clifton, and Camp Washington is unusual.
With a lot of that city noise, a lot of it becomes pretty regular and you get pretty used to it. So when something like this that's pretty foreign, it kind of stands out to you.
This sound is keeping people up at night. Brendan Markham says last night was the loudest it's been in Northside.
It almost didn't stop for a couple hours.
The duration varies from a few seconds to several minutes, and it's difficult to describe.
We were hearing this siren-like quality noise, whirring, oscillating up and down.
The Herald started hearing the sounds 2 weeks ago in Clifton.
My son came up to me and said, "Dad, the tornado sirens are going off."
And it's been happening every night since.
Usually it starts at about 10 p.m. It can go till 3 a.m., 4 a.m., but it's quite unpredictable.
And it kind of stresses me out because I don't know what it is, and it's kind of scary.
It's got a lot of people talking on Facebook, speculating about the source. Storm sirens, construction, drones, this recycling plant, or the rail yard.
Hopefully the community can, rally if it's not temporary, because it's really impacting us.
The back and forth over driver's licenses given to non-legal residents in New York comes to an end. Why a judge is giving the state a green light to continue issuing them when we come back. A New York judge is allowing the state to continue giving driver's licenses to non-legal residents, saying the Department of Justice did not prove the state law contradicts, federal law. Well, the Trump administration sued New York over the 2019 green light law that allows New Yorkers 16 and older to apply for a license regardless of their citizenship or lawful status in the U.S. The green light law does not pertain to commercial driver's licenses. Speaking of those commercial driver's licenses, the Trump administration is continuing its crackdown of illegal alien truck drivers with its Operation Highway Sentinel. Last weekend, more than 100 arrests of this kind were made in California. The drivers arrested from over half a dozen different countries, including India, Mexico, and Colombia. The National News Desk's Jeff Harris has more.
Operation Highway Sentinel was launched earlier this month by ICE, Homeland Security Investigations, and Border Patrol agents. Its goal, address the deadly crashes linked to commercial truckers. Along with California, similar operations have been carried out in Indiana, New York, and Oklahoma, resulting in hundreds of arrests. As part of Operation Highway Sentinel, U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement arresting over 100 illegal alien truck drivers on California highways.
If you get a driver's license in Colorado, New York, or California, you don't stay in those states. You actually travel across the country.
Federal authorities saying the sweep was launched following multiple fatal crashes across several states involving illegal alien truckers licensed in California, including Harjinder Singh, who allegedly killed 3 people while trying to make an illegal U-turn in Florida.
You have governors putting these folks behind the wheel. And again, we're not going to stand for...
Those arrested as part of Operation Highway Sentinel in California include illegal aliens from nearly a dozen different countries like India, Mexico, Colombia, Russia, and Venezuela. Similar operations also taking place in New York and Oklahoma, along with Operation Midway Blitz in Indiana, which resulted in over 200 arrests, including 146 truck drivers, over 50 of whom had CDLs issued by different states.
Too many families across this country have felt pain and been victimized and lost loved ones because of these illegal drivers.
Now, earlier this year, the Trump administration announcing new rules regarding commercial truck drivers, primarily focusing on English language proficiency requirements. California was the first state to have federal funding withheld for noncompliance, over $40 million, but multiple other states have failed to cooperate as well, including Illinois, Washington, New York, Pennsylvania, and Minnesota. Not to mention Colorado, a state Duffy is now threatening to withhold $24 million from after a federal audit found roughly 22% of CDLs given to immigrants were done so illegally.
I guarantee you that the federal taxpayer is not going to fund their roads and bridges and their systems when they're putting illegals on the roads and endangering the lives of the American people.
Colorado Governor Jared Polis saying crossed wires caused the problem, and if Duffy had reached out, he would know the state has, quote, finished the investigation, and we are conducting a final review of the findings, with letters likely going out this week to CDL holders whose credentials were improperly issued. Now, California Governor Gavin Newsom's office and the state's DMV have also countered Duffy's accusations in several areas, including that California CDL holders have a fatal crash rate lower than the national average, and that the federal government, not the state, determines CDL eligibility. I'm Jeff Harris reporting from Washington.
Coming up, Santa is on the move. We'll show you where he is now. It's officially Christmas Eve, and the wait is over because Santa Claus is coming to town. NORAD is tracking Santa's every move live. You can see him here behind me. Right now, it looks like Santa and his reindeer are flying over Africa. And hey, he's already made so many stops, including in Australia, as you can see, Shanghai and Dubai. NORAD is currently taking calls from children and families, keeping them up to date on Santa's whereabouts. Even President Donald Trump took a call.
Will Santa ever get mad if we don't leave him out any cookies?
I think he won't get mad, but I think he'll be very disappointed. You know, he tends to be a little bit on the cherubic side. You know what cherubic means? A little on the heavy side. I think Santa would like some cookies.
You heard the president. Leave out cookies for Santa. That does it for this edition of the National News Desk. I'm Taylor Murray. Thanks for watching.